In extremis, a Latin phrase meaning in the farthest reaches or at the point of death, the latter being an adequate description of the state of the show at this point. Don't get me wrong, I certainly have yet to find an episode of this series that has genuinely made me want to kill myself, but I'm just wading through all these episodes now, just waiting until the end of the series. I hear a lot of commentators comparing this new series to the old classic series, which is fine for the biggest Whovian out there, but seems to be preventing the series from progressing in any way. And not to mention my knowledge of the old series is very limited, and I seriously don't have time to watch over 25 years worth of a show I'm simply no longer interested in. I don't know, Moffat's second episode of the series certainly seems to still be the most praised episode so far. Maybe that might heighten my spirits. This week I'm going to do things a little differently though, and talk about all the Missy crap first, and then we can talk about the Pope and all the fun stuff. The opening of the episode is certainly interesting, but I find the whole Missy execution thing to be very anticlimactic and oddly placed, given that it runs parallel with the other storyline. Although intriguing and accompanied by the lovely music that's heard, I found it very disappointing that it was revealed to be Missy behind the vault after 5 episodes of build-up. It's great because I no longer have to complain about the oath bollocks any longer, but they could have at least waited until the end of the episode to reveal this. We're not even 3 minutes in and it's just given away in a bit of dialogue like it didn't even matter. So let's get to the heart of this. Missy is going to have her heart stopped, regen disabled, and brain function ceased. I've never been entirely certain on where the Doctor stands on capital punishment. Maybe he hates it as much as capitalism, am I right? In the 2005 episode titled Boomtown, he would have sent that big ol' slitheen alien lady back to her home planet to die had she not turned into an egg. Perhaps he's just doing a similar thing in this episode, getting somebody else to do the dirty work for you. I can't exaggerate enough the interest I have in this whole idea of Missy being put down like a dog, but it seems like something's missing. Like, I don't know, a large chunk of story? The continuity from this episode to the last time we saw Missy is just left completely empty. Remember her getting captured by the Daleks in Series 9? How did we get from there to here? The only connection we seem to have is when Missy says,
"Domestic bliss on Beryllium." That's the word among the Daleks.
Did the Daleks bring her there, or did the Doctor? The worst part of all is actually a YouTube video posing the exact question I'm asking, and here's the answer they give.
Well, she's been playing a lot of golf.
After getting her ready for execution, however, Nardole shows up and feels it necessary to remind the Doctor of his dead wife, warning him not to be an arsehole from beyond the grave. It's odd, isn't it, that Moffat, after 6 seasons of River popping in and out of his life when she feels like it, still can't let go of her. It's such a purposeless interruption from the story. It just made me want to go back to the other side of the story with the monks and priests. Missy then gets executed, but actually doesn't. So this whole thing was pointless. This reveal could have waited until later into the series, where the build-up might have actually had some payoff. I know we've jumped over a lot at this point, but I have to ask, what purpose did Missy serve in this episode? All we seem to understand is that the Doctor needs a bit of advice on how to save the world given that he's blind. Right, so now I'm going to talk about the decent part of the episode. It sets itself up brilliantly when the entire population of the Vatican arrive in the Doctor's lecture theatre, followed by that awesome moment where the Pope enters the room, setting up the urgency of this matter. I also liked whenever Nardole was required to describe what can be seen to the Doctor. Matt Lucas is hilarious whenever the Doctor needs him to cover his arse, making use of the Doctor's blindness to a comedic advantage. They begin talking about this text that nobody has read and survived to tell the tale, the Veritas. This is another Latin word that translates roughly into truth. This is interesting because it entertains the possibility that a book so truthful would convince people to choose death over life. It's quite a terrifying notion, but does remind me of how religious texts themselves can convince people to die, thinking that there's a better life for them on the other side. We then see Bill coming home and bringing a date along with her. The foster mum is once again hilarious in just straight up controlling everything in Bill's life with a dollop of malice and a dash of sexism. Imagine what it's going to look like when or if she meets the Doctor, or even if they already know each other. That would be cool. If the Doctor knowing Bill's mother is the reason why she has strict rules on men, now that would be a brilliant plot twist. Sadly, my cynical meter is a little off the charts right now though, indicating that in all likelihood something as brilliant as this would never happen. Bill and
Penny?
Are left alone, and good lord, this segment is probably my favourite part of the entire episode. Just when they thought they were alone, the sound of the TARDIS is heard, and the look on Bill's face is absolutely priceless. The dialogue the pair share is adorable, and Bill is still a wonderful companion for the series. Then the funniest moment in the episode happens when the Pope arrives. Good lord, my girlfriend and I were in absolute stitches at this moment. The comedic timing of this encounter was absolutely brilliant. To put the tastiest cherry in the world on top of the cake though, Bill then storms into the bedroom and tells them they're all going to hell. Christ on a bike, this is hilarious. And what's best is that Moffat wrote this. Moffat! Please let your next project be a comedy, man. A light, easy to produce sitcom, needs only to be about 6 episodes long, but this kind of writing is excellent. The leaps and bounds this scene takes are brilliant, well written, and masterfully performed by all. After all the hilarious chaos with Bill, the Cardinal offers the Doctor another confession. Not to be confused with that bullshit confession dial from last series, but a genuine confession, something that the Doctor says would take too long to perform. This was a great moment also. Anything that plays on the Doctor's guilt tends to play out in the story's favour. He then presses them on into the Hereticum, the heretical library. In here contains violent video games, Harry Potter, and Monty Python's Life of Brian. Speaking of Monty Python, this episode weirdly reminds me of that sketch they did in Flying Circus titled The Funniest Joke in the World, but turned serious. For those that don't know the sketch, check out the link in the description. I highly recommend watching it. Once again, I was surprised to find I was enjoying the humour of Pope Benedict in 1045 being a woman, to the extent of even being painted so. This jab at priesthood being males only did make me chuckle, and I loved the poking in general of religion that the Doctor and Bill make fun of also. Following that, Nardol's comment about the Cardinal and the Doctor writing Christmas crackers was extremely amusing. The mystery starts to deepen, however, when a porthole appears and disappears from sight, along with a priest in a cage as well. The atmosphere begins to feel murky as the Cardinal is killed, and we find that the Veritas has been sent to a nuclear research centre. Bill then tries to walk in front of Nardol, who just explodes with robotic fury about making sure she obeys his instructions. The death toll for the series thus far has been astronomical, and somehow Nardol assumes that a man with a gun is going to face Bill in any way at this point.
Are you secretly a badass?
I mean, how does being patronised in a similar way to a teacher telling off a young child give off the impression that he's a badass? The Doctor then plugs himself into the book in an attempt to get his eyesight back, and a monk appears from a hole in the wall. It's pretty obvious that this is either an altered Cardinal Angelo or somebody else entirely. The Doctor's inability to recognise this and the vague identity of the red-cloaked figure churns the tension up to an absurd level. The reveal of the monk's disgusting hand and face certainly was impactful and kickstarts the chase out of the heretical library very effectively. The visual distortion displayed here not only adds to the horror of the monks, but shows us the broken visual field the Doctor possesses at this point. My only wish is that the monks would move their mouths and talk like people. They just open their mouth and a voice comes out. It just seems very lazy and dull to have them speak this way. Bill then finds herself wandering around the strange portal room, only to find CERN employees ready to top themselves following the Veritas being brought to their attention. This reminds me of the Heaven's Gate cult, a group of people that were convinced they were going to visit aliens on a spaceship following a comet. All they had to do was kill themselves. It's a pretty mystifying phenomenon that plagues the mind into wondering what on earth could be contained in those letters on paper. What I'm confused about though is how all these staff members, scientists mind you, had the time during their shift to read this document. Since when would a nuclear facility be taking advice and opening documents from a priest in the bloody Vatican of all places? The cult-like behaviour then manifests itself when they all start chanting the numbers off the top of their heads. This was rather creepy and served excellently as a precursor to Nardol figuring out that it's all a big simulation
inside a simulation.
It does seem a bit odd that the Pope of all people would come and see the Doctor in reality, when he could just pray to God and have his mighty power solve all his problems instead. It's certainly interesting that the monks tried and tested this manufactured copy of Earth to see if they could take over without error, but just feels extremely underwhelming given the level of investment and interest I had in this episode. Was the Veritas one way of taking over the planet then? Even more annoyingly is that they use the simulation idea to tie up all the loose ends, but just creates more in doing so. Are we expected to believe that everything following the opening of the email was a simulation except for the sonic sunglasses? How would they even get inside the simulation? How did a simulated version of the Doctor manage to send an email to himself? It's just too much to get my head around. The twist is advantageous in one regard, however, and that is to build up excitement for the next episode where the monks might actually invade and destroy us. To add the whole Missy subplot on top of all this, though, extremely irrelevant to the story that was just told. I should have really put the Latin translations into this part of the episode. Joseph Long, the actor who played the Pope in this episode, also appeared in the episode titled Turn Left 9 years ago. Christina Tom is a name mentioned on the email list. She is a graphic designer and art director for the show.
Easter eggs.
Extremis is the name of a series of Iron Man comic books. When Bill sees the countdown clock, it's fixed at a time when Who was originally aired in 1963. So, did it suck? God, I wish I could be a little more generous with this episode, but I think the problem was that they tried to cram far too much into an episode that could have run on its own without the Missy thing being revealed right at the beginning. Had they revealed it later in the series, or even as a closing to the episode, I would have been much more satisfied. This isn't a bad episode either, though. It was probably the funniest episode I've seen in a long time, but also had some really mysterious and exciting moments too, such as when we see CERN ready to blow themselves up and when the Doctor fumbles his way out of the Hyreticum with a visual impairment. As much as I had a lot of fun with this episode, I cannot ignore the thorns growing from the rose, and I think I'm going to give this episode a 7 out of 10. In the 2005 episode titled Boomtown, he would have sent that old... Jesus Christ. Matt Lucas is hilarious whenever the Doctor needs him to describe what can be seen to the Doctor. Oh, that doesn't quite make sense. Jesus Christ.